Hello and welcome to the Agenda podcast on the Blood Red channel. I'm Matt Addison. Alongside me are Liverpool FC correspondent Paul Gorst. And Paul, we've finally got some news in terms of the date in which the Premier League is going to return. We'll get straight to it. Liverpool could be champions in June.
They can. And just before I start, I think I need to say that the pedals of working from home means you might be able to hear me next door neighbour having a right go at the garden work. But great news for Liverpool fans. June the 17th is when we're told that the games in hand will restart. So that's Manchester City against Arsenal and Aston Villa against Sheffield United, is it, I think? So Liverpool travelling to Everton for the Merseyside derby on either June the 20th or the 21st, or could even be the Monday night at the moment. But either way, whatever way you look at it, great news for the entire nation, I think. I mean, it's been a pretty difficult couple of months for ourselves, hasn't it, trying to cover every cough and spit from Liverpool FC when nothing's been happening. But this is tangible news that we can all get behind and all look forward to. And I think Liverpool fans will be relishing the fact that they can actually win that title at Everton, depending on what happens with City and Arsenal. But either way, before June is out, they could be Premier League champions and champions of England for the first time in 30 years. So fantastic news this afternoon.
Yeah, I'm sure Liverpool fans across the country and further afield as well will be massively excited about that. As you say, the first two matches to be played will be those two teams that played in the Carabao Cup, so Aston Villa against Sheffield United and Manchester City against Arsenal. And of course, because that is the case, if Manchester City were to lose at home, that would mean Liverpool potentially could win the league at Goodison Park because, of course, they only need those 6 points or less than 6 points if Manchester City slip up. So, yeah, Liverpool could potentially, Paul, win the league at Everton.
Yeah, it's just such a surreal prospect, isn't it? I mean, Liverpool fans have waited 30 years for the title and now they're presented with an opportunity where they could be lifting it at Goodison Park in front of no supporters. I mean, what odds would you have got if you'd have placed a bet on that in May 1990? Such a strange, surreal byproduct of the times that we're living in, I suppose. But look, it doesn't matter. I mean, the circumstances are, what has happened. And when you've got a death toll that is as high as it is in this country, there are obviously more serious things. So Liverpool, all they can do now is just crack on with the hand that they've been dealt and win this league as soon as possible. And if that happens at Goodison Park with no fans there to see it, then so be it. But certainly a really bizarre byproduct of everything that has happened these last couple of months. But I don't think the players will be overly concerned about where and when it happens. I think they just want to get it done and dusted and placed on their honours list, and Liverpool can have the Premier League trophy added to the Champions Wall as soon as possible.
Yeah, we've spoken in the past that the asterisk isn't going to bother Liverpool's fans or Liverpool's players, but it does mean that today's news will mean that in 3 weeks' time, on Saturday, Liverpool will be back in action. And the Premier League as well today confirming that they want to conclude by August the 2nd. The FA Cup, we believe, is going to be played before then as well. I mean, why do you think it's so important that date is put in now? I mean, is it just so that next season potentially could start on time?
I think so, yeah. I mean, I'm not sure whether it'll start on time, but certainly the earlier this season finishes, the closer to a normal start date that they can have for next season. And I think with the European Championships, it might have been delayed a little bit, a week earlier maybe. Liverpool started their season on August the 8th last season. Traditionally, it is maybe a week or so later. So hopefully next season won't be delayed too much by the events that have happened. And I think it will be a case of short turnaround, maybe just an intensive pre-season schedule at Melwood, at clubs training grounds across the country. And given the fact that they've already played 9 games between the end of June and the very first couple of days of August, won't be too much needed in terms of getting fit and getting ready for a new season. It would almost just be a continuous thing, and teams can kind of hit the ground running a little bit more than we normally associate with the first couple of weeks of a season.
Yeah, it's going to be a tight turnaround, as you say. But between now and the rest of this season, Liverpool are back in training now, of course. And yesterday, all 20 clubs voted in favour of resuming contact training. I mean, have Liverpool gone back to contact training today? Do you know, will that be implemented straight away?
I think it will be implemented straight away, but I think at the time of record, I'm not sure whether they're actually back in Melwood yet or whether it's going to be a little bit later on. I know some of the training sessions have been early evening. It's getting obviously quite hot at the moment, isn't it? So I think Jurgen Klopp does like to vary up his training times. I do know that. When there is a game at a certain time, he likes to train at that time. And obviously that hasn't been the case, but it could be a case of Liverpool training when it cools down a little bit later on this evening, and we'll see those pictures emerge. But I imagine it would be contact training, because we know that it was unanimously voted yesterday, wasn't it? So I think players are determined to get back to something approaching normality as quickly as possible. So I don't think there will be, a training session that they've been doing for the last week or so, where they kind of just, almost individual sessions next to their teammates. I think it will be something approaching a little bit more of a normal session with five-a-side games. I've seen Newcastle training today. They've been training contact as normal. And I think Liverpool will be kind of doing something similar as and when they do train at Melwood today.
Yeah, I'm sure the players will be eased back in after such a long period away. But just to turn our attentions quickly to Troy Deeney, I know you've been writing about him today. Of course, he was quite outspoken a few weeks back about not wanting to come back because he didn't feel it was safe. He's changed his mind on that, and he's also had some interesting comments on Liverpool to say as well. So maybe you could fill us in on him just to finish.
Yeah, I mean, I personally saw no problem with his issues about not going back to training. He's obviously got a young son who's got breathing difficulties, I think. So, that's fair play to him. Any player who doesn't feel that it's particularly safe at this time is their prerogative, and I don't think anyone should condemn them for feeling that way. Jurgen Klopp said last week that any player who didn't want to go back to training at Melwood wasn't going to face any sanctions, and I think that is quite right. But I thought it was a little bit interesting when Troy Deeney, a player who I think is great, to be honest. I mean, as journalists, we always look for people who are happy to speak their mind, and he's certainly a player who does that. I've actually sat with Troy in the past and heard him speak on a range of topics, so very honest, so very, painfully honest at times, and we love that as reporters. But I think when he was talking about the Premier League's integrity being compromised today because of the situation, I didn't particularly feel that I agreed with those comments. I think they were a little bit wide of the mark. It's obviously an imperfect situation, and the Premier League have got to kind of maintain the status quo as best they can, and there's no kind of ideal way of doing that given the situation that everyone's in. So I think everyone's in the same boat, and maybe the fact that he, speaking as Watford's captain, who are above the Premier League's drop zone on goal difference only at the moment, maybe that situation was kind of clouding his thoughts at the moment. But he's obviously entitled to his opinion, and I love reading about his opinion. He's always somebody who speaks his mind, and that is great. But didn't particularly agree with him saying that Liverpool's title triumph will be kind of diminished because of the situation. Liverpool are in the same boat as everyone else, and all they can do is go on and win it. So it's not their fault that they're in this situation, and Liverpool will go on and win that, and shouldn't have their achievement diminished by any kind of global pandemic that has affected everything across the globe and not just football. So I didn't agree with that, but it's a game of opinions, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. I think the fact that Liverpool were so far clear before the Premier League season was halted sort of undermines those arguments, if you like, from Troy Deeney. But certainly he and his Watford teammates have changed their minds now in terms of coming back. And for Liverpool fans, that will be the most important thing. But for now on the Blood Red channel, thank you very much for joining us, Paul. There will be potentially some more news coming out this evening from the Premier League. And if there is, we will cover it, of course, on tomorrow's Blood Red podcast and across the Liverpool Echo website too. For now, though, from myself and from Paul, it's goodbye for now.